each time I talk to them, it's, you know, it's a slightly different conversation as things shift for them, so there is no.
And so the CDE, or whoever manages this particular charter is aware of then where you're at with all this, they're
Yes.
updated? Was it Chad Howes, or who's the contact person?
Chad O's.
O's?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know, we talked.
So he's all updated and
Yeah.
currently?
Well, I don't know if it, not in the past day, but yeah,
Okay.
it's, there's always news and rumors and stuff going on all the
Changing
time.
situation all the
But,
time.
you know, we talk and with Cascade and kind of get updates, but right now it's in their parents' hands, as it should be. And the decision is, what for the future is up to them. And where we fit into that, don't know.
So, and I think always, you know, in our planning, we are always thinking about what do we need to do to prepare if another option becomes available for us. So we're always, you know, keeping in mind that we may need some additional funds if we need to move the school to another site or something like that. So we definitely have that as part of our planning process, to know that there would be some cost if we ended up moving to another site. Now we're not talking about building a school or anything like that. We're talking about literally the costs of moving from one facility to another when we're talking about planning for some funding. So I think that's probably the best answer I can give you, is we don't have enough to go out and find an empty place and build a school, but we definitely feel like we could come up with the funds that we would need to move from one site to another if we needed to do that.
Including Red Hill.
Right.
Should the district be interested in talking to us again about it?
Really,
I continue to offer to help in that department.
Thank you. Okay, so any more word comment up here about this agenda item before I move on? It's just a discussion item, so there's no action to be taken. Okay, I'll move us on to our next agenda item then, which is just talking about district comments that we have heard and going and attending meetings, and also in communications that we've received from the district regarding students that they don't seem to believe are in-district students, and yet we have provided multiple times documents from our parents that the district did apparently hire a firm to go out and try to verify some of our students, and yet they were not able to document every single one, I guess, on their list. And yet we continue to provide information to the district whenever we get specific names of students, documenting information that those families have given to us, showing that we do believe that they're in-district students, and so it's a very difficult situation because we don't have a public way of documenting individuals in a way that we can say, we know this student and where they live, and let's, you know, have that parent. But some of our parents are getting very frustrated, who are in district families who are repeatedly being bombarded and asked for evidence of the fact that they live here. And yet these families presumably are also district families who will, their students potentially could be continuing in the district in the middle school. So yeah, it's a difficult and touchy situation because we can't identify individuals in any public way, but we are responding back to the district every time we get a communication about specific students, just either reinforcing that we submitted documents for that student earlier in the year when we were supposed to, or in some cases, if a student moved mid-year, that we gave the district documentation of that move. So our statement would be that we strongly believe that the documentation that we've provided to the district is accurate, and that the students that we say are in-district students are in district students.
And we continue to offer, if they want us to come and sit down with us and go through all this stuff, person to person, we'd be happy to do that rather than
We've
constantly
offered that
having
many
sent
times.
mail back and forth.
It's a frustrating process, because of the latest letter that we got, it was, we don't believe that these kids live in the district, but there's no reason
Right.
why, no clear reason why that is not believed. And as, some of our parents have written to the RVSD board, many of these families were at Manor or Brookside before, and, haven't moved, their address is the same, that they're long-standing members of this community, that they don't know what the district's reasoning is for questioning their residency, and neither do we. And so all we can do is just say, you question them, but here's the documents we provided you. In some cases, here are updated documents, here's more documents than anybody could expect to ever produce. We've had parents ask the district for a home visit, so the district can come and see. I don't know if that's being responded to, so that's kind of.
But they are doing the district is doing home visits,
Yeah, and
right?
one of these parents was talking about how they had somebody sitting out in front of their house, and they were curious as to who that person was, and, watching, and, it seemed suspicious. It seemed like they were watching their daughter. And
Did
then,
they call the police?
well, then that person came to the front door and introduced themselves and said they were polite, but, and then, they saw the child, they saw the house, and then a few weeks later, we get notice that the district doesn't believe that they live at this address, so I don't,
And
I don't
so
know.
even if you, if, like we're submitting, the parents are submitting all the paperwork that is asked, can they still say, I don't believe it, and send somebody out and go to a home visit?
According to their policy, they need some evidence to do that, but. I
But
don't
we
think
haven't
that's
been
happening.
provided with any evidence, and in the case of the last list of students we got, which I think there were 6,
there are 9.
or 9, okay. Several just said, well, we can't verify they're in district, and that was the only explanation that we got.
Because I'd be concerned if people are sitting in cars outside watching, that's kind of scary as a parent, if there's somebody in a small community and there's people sitting in a car watching your kid coming and going, they don't belong in the neighborhood. That's a little bit disconcerting,
And, there's a child on this list who, we provided documents at the beginning of the year saying that they no longer live in district as a returning student, and we haven't counted them as in district since the beginning of the year, but each list that comes out, this child is still on the list saying, oh, this child is not in the district, like, we know it's not, that child's not in district. So,
We are obviously no longer counting them, right? You're
yeah, we
saying
have not
don't
been counting them,
And we informed them that they moved.
yeah.
Well, it all seems like a tremendous waste of time, both on the district part and our part. It's a tremendous waste of time
Yeah, we spent a lot of time.
and resources. I don't understand why we can't just get this resolved. All we have to do is sit down and go, here, kid number 1, here is the proof of residency. Kid number 2, here is
For
the
that
proof
to
of
happen, you have
residency.
to have somebody who's willing to sit down.
Right, and it's
do it.
ridiculous that that's not happening.
And, like,
because
tell
this
us,
is
like,
just
what
going
do you not
on
believe
and
here?
on and on. It's ridiculous. And the fact that they're coming to people's doors, that's really creepy.
are they allowed to do that?
Yes.
That's
They
kind of
can
harassment
go
if
to a
you're sitting.
door, but, we've had people say that they've asked to go in and actually see the child's bedroom.
Are they allowed to do
That's
that?
no.
So have we
That's
told our
okay.
parents that they do not have to let people in? And they should not let them in? Means that they know, they don't feel like, oh my gosh, if I don't let these people in, then I'm gonna be in trouble or something?
Well, and I just,
We're trying to be cooperative. It's like, we're happy to do this stuff, but we'd like to do it together. But,
And the
so
reality
we
is
don't wanna
when you
we
go
don't wanna
knock
look
on
like we're
someone's
trying to
door-
hide something.
Yeah.
No.
We're
But
not,
is the
but it
district
feels-
doing this for all the students that are going to White Hill,
I have
Manor,
no idea.
Brookside, everything, I mean, I
have no
wonder.
idea.
But the reality is, if somebody drives up at a random time to someone's house and knocks on the door and the parent answers the door who's supposed to be there, that is verification that the person lives there. You know, we can't plan to plant somebody at a house at a particular time for a visit that's random. And, you know, even if they didn't observe the child there, the fact that the parent answered the door is verification that that person lives there. And that should be an adequate enough
And
verification.
state law is pretty clear, the resident is a guardian or parent is what determines the district residency.
Right, and I, my
There's not, I
couple,
mean, the district has this policy now in which they're asking for,
Nights,
they're not asking for nights, in our FUA they ask for nights, but in their policy, they're asking for, in cases of joint custody, they're asking for court documents. But, you know, it's not gonna, but there's nothing in the policy which says if a child only sleeps with you 1 day a week, they're not a resident, because they can't do that, because that's clearly a violation of the statute.
and I think it was
Because the
Alameda
statute-
or Piedmont that got in trouble for that. They were sued by a parent because one parent lived in district, the other parent didn't, and they were asking how many nights that the kid slept in a bed in the district, and the district lost. So there's no,
Yeah, because state law is really clear, it's actually, state law is repeated in the district policy. It says, parent or guardian, the resident of a parent or guardian establishes residency for the kid. It doesn't say
how many
3 nights a week, or what happens if there's another parent or guardian in a different location. It just says parent or guardian, singular, which, and that's the district policy, which is why they don't have in their policy the number of nights you sleep. They've asked for that in our FUA, but they don't have it in their own policy, because it can't, because legally somebody would challenge it and they would lose.
well, and I had a couple parents talk to me who, they have had kids registered in district schools for years before. They have lived here for years, they are known in the community, they live here, and they're still getting questioned.
It seems like that, there's
Well,
some discrimination going on.
That's the kind of problem that this is on the agenda, just to air in public,
Yeah.
so that, you know, it's clear to the public who cares what's going on.
But it is concerning that even after someone got a home visit, that they still continue to show up on the list questioning them.
Well, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't do anything there, you know, it's like, it's annoying, but,
well, I'll say this, I've heard, read district communication where trying to clarify this issue, and there's some good clarification in there, but, and I think the point was being made that, that it really doesn't matter where our kids come from, because we accept kids no matter where they come from. And to a point, that's true, that, you know, as long as a kid is a resident of California, then they can come here.
as defined by a guardian or parent.
Well, there's
Living in
in-district
California.
and.
No, there, it's, you know, it's,
But for, you know, I'm not gonna speak for the district, you know, my understanding would be that their skin in this game is space. That, you know, their motivation is to have as low of an in-district number for us as possible to provide us less space. And I don't know how valid those claims are when they're constantly claiming that in-district residents are living out of district. And when that number and none of those claims go out in public constantly, and, you know, they have the capacity to send emails to, you know, so many people within our community just through, you know, sending it to families at their schools. And here we are just constantly having to defend something that just isn't true.
welcome to the world of social media.
All right, well, I think we've made our point.
Yeah.
We don't agree with what is being portrayed, and And we continue to provide documentation whenever we're given a list of actual student names rather than some nebulous number out there in the world, so. I will take this time to go out for public comment. 1, 2, 3, 4 people, okay. And if you could introduce yourself.
Julie Quater, and I have a couple questions. One, does the Attorney General and the Department of Ed have protocol for how a district can confirm addresses? And two, are some parents' civil rights being abridged by the process that the district is using?
And we'll just take all the questions and then we'll go back and do, answer what we can, okay? Thank you.
Hi, Steve Pringle. Wondering if it might be helpful if during your negotiations with the FUA, instead of not accepting sometimes what the district wants you to use for a form, maybe trying to accept that, that might help clarify some of the issues. And also wondering if you could tell me if there have been any other families that were claimed to be in district that you found that weren't, besides the one that moved.
Okay. Thank you.
Matt Brassler, 28 Agatha Court, you're welcome to come to my house whenever you like. If you had in your wildest dreams, since the district allegedly is not cooperating in this issue, which seems to take a lot of bandwidth on both sides, who would you like to meet with? Can I have a name of a person that you would like to meet with, and who would meet with that person? Who from the district, and who from the charter?
Okay. Thank you. Shelley?
Hi, Shelley. Seems to me that a lot of it comes down to a disagreement over what constitutes proof of residency. You mentioned like joint custody, and then there's state law, and there's district policy, and then there's a facilities use agreement, and then we're giving them documents, and maybe that's not the documents that are being asked for, so I'm wondering if you have ever sent an itemized list of, here are the disagreements. You want document A, we don't wanna give you out document A, we're giving you document B, or, really itemize what exactly is the, there's a lot, well, we've given them all of the documents. That's kind of a vague statement, and it sounds like the disagreement is what is the proof of residency, and that there's a disagreement over what that ought to be, and I'm not quite sure. It seems like it could be fairly simple if you just agreed on a proof of residency, and then it doesn't matter to your parents, it's not gonna affect their enrollment. But I've never seen what that list is like. You want A, we don't wanna give you A, we wanna give you B instead, or, so.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like, so if you have that list, or if you could address that, that would be helpful.
Anyone else before I close public comment? Okay, let's bring it back up here and then try to answer some of those questions. I think, it's probably good to kind of start from the back at the beginning, which is when we were negotiating what documents and what the form was that we were going to accept. And we agreed to a form that had been sent back and forth between us, which was the district's current residency.
Current at that
Yeah,
time.
current at the time of the signing of the agreement. And probably within a week of signing.
But that is what's in the agreement.
Right.
In the FUA is clearly spelled out the district's policy as it was on August 7th. And the documents, to Shelley's question, were clearly spelled out, and that's what we've used, and that's what we've supplied. And there are two required two, and there's a list from, I think it's 2 different lists. You can pick one item from each list, and that's what we've done. There's no disagreement about what the documentation is. The new policy has actually more flexibility in providing documents, and since we agreed to the old policy, that's what we're using.
Yeah, so the district changed the policy there was a different board-approved proof of residence policy after we signed the facilities use agreement.
Right.
So we were already collecting forms from families, and all of a sudden, the district says, well, no, you should be using this form now. So then we have to go back and, I mean, the precedence would be, how often are they gonna change the form? And if you sign something in good faith, you should move forward with that in good faith.
So,
Well, and I think also it should be stated that in ed code, what's required to prove residency is a much simpler list than
well,
what is.
it's,
But just so people understand that in ed code, the things that you can submit are much, much easier, and it's one of like 7 things. We are providing at least 2 documents for families to prove their residency, which is in agreement with the form that we agreed to, and they're the documents that need to be submitted. So what happens when the district chooses to go out and do the residency verifications of students is that there's something in those documents that we provided as proof of residency that for some reason triggered for them some need.
we have no idea.
Right, but
We
they
have no
don't give
idea,
us,
we have no idea whether they're using a database, or, we don't know if it's the database that's triggering these things.
but we're certainly not getting any information from the district as to what those reasons are, why they're continuing to work beyond the.
I'd be happy to share it with you, the email we got from Terry Lauer that said, here are the students, well, the names redacted, and we don't believe, no, basically, I'm not quoting verbatim, but we don't believe they live in district.
We cannot.
We cannot verify, but there's no explanation for why.
So I think the name, if you wanna set up a meeting, I think it would be Terry Lauer. She sent us all the letters saying all these people are suspect.
And I myself would be happy to meet with her.
Right, and we've offered many times in writing to sit down with her.
Right.
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting, the RVSD, you know, their RVSD policy says that when the superintendent or designee reasonably believes that a student's parent guardian has provided false or unreliable evidence of residency, he or she may make reasonable efforts to determine that the student meets district residence requirements. An investigation may be initiated when the superintendent or designee is able to identify specific articulable facts supporting the belief that the parent guardian has provided false or unreliable evidence of residency, and in accordance with administrative regulation. And neither RBC nor any of the contested families were ever provided any kind of specific articulable fact supporting the belief that the parent guardian has provided false or unreliable evidence of residency.
So we don't have
So-
any information to base their determination upon, nor when they send us the list, do they give us anything specific enough for us to try to make any determination. What we do know is that we've provided the documents that are required as a part of the district residency form, and we've submitted those, and we've updated the district when circumstances have changed, so that if a family notifies us that they've moved or whatever, we have been doing regular monthly updates to the district when we either add students or someone moves, just as we're required to by our facilities use agreement. So we don't believe that there's any one that we haven't notified the district about who would have moved, that we didn't send information to the district about as soon as we became aware of that. And in some cases, like we've mentioned, we sent them the information long ago, and they continue to leave students on that list.
So in other words, the answer to that question is, everybody who we think is in district, we truly believe is in district. There's
Yeah.
nobody that we feel is,
Right.
you
There's
know,
no,
saying they're in
nobody out
district and
there.
they're not.
Right,
Yeah.
so there's no, nobody that we're identifying. in
So we
here that's
provided
all-
everything that they've asked for, or that our FQE specifies, and that's all we know.
And we follow up with parents too. There's a kid
Right.
yesterday who at lunch said, "I'm moving." You're moving? Where are you moving to? And he said, "Next door." And so I called his parents, said, "Are you moving? You moving?" Okay. Follow up with new documents so we can provide the district with that information. And I called the parents and he said, parents said, we're not moving.
Classic
but-
kids.
But, I mean, that's, you know, we're trying to do all our due diligence, and then I think Julie's question was around Attorney General recommendations, and Attorney General, does have
As
recommendations,
guidelines,
guidelines.
which I don't really apply in this situation, because this is a, you know, we made an agreement with the district
We've agreed to a
that
document.
is a certain thing,
Mhm.
and what they do with their students is their business. And, you know.
I didn't mean protocol for verifying, I meant their protocol for following up when they suspect a parent
Yeah,
isn't
that's
residing.
in,
Isn't
that's
there
in
a
the, that's
protocol?
in the guidelines, yeah, that's in the AG guidelines, which I'm sure the district is aware of, and is not too different than what Sonia just read. So, and, you know, it says, it does say, the first thing I would do is try to get substitute documentation, it does say that in the guidelines, but that doesn't really apply to us, because we have an you know, the only reason it's irrelevant is because we're in Prop 39 and they have a facilities use agreement, and we try to follow that agreement, and we'll have a new one next year, and we'll follow that one. And I don't think we, you know, part of the problem with the changing in the policy at the beginning of the year was the policy they sent us on after the agreement was signed.
Which was never,
Which was never discussed with us at all.
and not eventually approved by the RVSD board.
Right, so the policy they sent us, which they, after we'd signed, which they said they wanted to use, you know, when they adopted a policy a week or two later, and they changed, in the meeting, they changed some of their requirements on the fly without anything being in writing, and then when they eventually published it, it was different again. So, you know, what they have out there now is not illegal. You know, if I was a district parent, I'd probably object to them asking for my custody arrangements. But, you know, we'll negotiate, when we go to negotiate the FUA for next year, we'll negotiate again the residency issues. And, you know, we're not gonna be unreasonable. If the district's asking parents for, and actually the documents, they have a longer list and more flexibility this year than we have, using the old policy. They made it in some ways more flexible. But at the end of the day, it's all determined by the FUA, and, you know, we do have the responsibility to think about our parents when we agree to something.
Right, well, that's my concern.
But we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
Mhm.
That begs the question, and I just wanna clarify for my phone call to Terry Lauer, who I don't know who that is. You feel like you're following the August 7th FUA that has been signed with the policies that existed prior to August 7th?
Yes.
Right, and the district, you know, when we sent them letters saying this is not what we agreed to, they never have really come back and say, well, this is why you should agree to this
Yeah.
new thing. They never really
To be determined.
contested that.
So my question is, the acceptance procedures that you have not agreed to, that have been suggested after August 7th, if they were presented to you today, would you accept them in next year's FUA?
It's possible. I mean, the only thing objectionable that I can think of offhand is asking parents for their custody documents, which.
Well, my ex-wife lives at 16 Lincoln Park, and I'm happy to tell you about
I'm
where she
just
lives too.
telling you,
What do you know?
that's the only thing that's in there that might be objectionable, but it, you know,
I'm just trying to solve problems.
Yeah,
At
and I
the
think
end of
we
the day,
haven't
it
had
probably
a
doesn't
conversation.
matter, cause it's not relevant to the residency question, even in terms of their own policy. So, in terms of the policy as it exists today, I'm guessing, you know, I don't know, but
Without board discussion, generally, the one that they've asked you to do is okay.
yeah, I mean, there are some things that are better about it for us, and there are some things that are, like this custody thing,
Good.
is not.
So, okay, less custody.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
I'm literally looking for yeses and
Well,
no's, cause I'm.
We're not trying to negotiate
We're
for you.
starting,
Yeah.
we're starting to have a
FUA.
back and
Right,
forth, which
and
we're
the
not supposed to
reality
do.
is, this isn't, you know, it's not something that we've had a discussion about at the board level.
But happy to talk to you at another time.
Yeah,
You have my cell phone.
yeah. I think that we covered everything,
Parent civil rights.
yeah.
People lurking, you're
Yeah.
asking to see
Well, it's-
bedrooms.
It's like,
It's gonna be up to parents, I think, if they wanna do anything
Yeah.
collectively about, you know.
we're trying to have
Yeah.
a workable relationship with our landlord, so it's, we're not into fighting. We're into trying to work, come up to reasonable solutions to problems.
But the reality
And
is.
I think our parents who objected it have been pretty clear about their objection, and I don't think.
Well, the reality is, it's affecting the relationship between district parents and the district more than it's affecting the relationship between us and our parents, because we believe that our parents are district parents, and the reality is, they will have the option of becoming or not becoming a district parent when it comes to middle school, and the relationship that's happening between them and the district right now will probably affect how they feel about that when the time comes. And they're gonna have to accept that responsibility for how they treat people. Any more board comment on this item before we move on? Okay, so let's move on to our next item, which is our application and lottery update. You gonna be heading this one out?
Probably be some ping ponging around.
Yeah.
But basically, we had our first enrollment period close on Sunday for people who are interested in having their kids register with Ross Valley Charter for the next school year. We have, from here on, we have rolling enrollment periods that Sharon and I will decide when those end. And then subsequent lotteries as necessary. But just kind of give you a summary of where we are, that we have, if we roll everybody up a grade, you know, knowing that we're gonna, fifth graders move on, that, you know, we're gonna have around 128 kids next year. Then we have, then we had 77, actually, was it 78 applications for next year. And if all of them come, that's 205 kids. But we know not all of them will come, and we will also know that people will continue to apply as the year goes on, and we will continue to get kids over the school year like we have this year, and the two parents who said they're gonna enroll their kids at the start of April. So, it's kind of a snapshot of where we are with kids starting the year, and then with